Okay, so let's get started here. So we can stop yapping. Hello, everyone. My name is Yasmin Piper. I'm the engagement coordinator here at Spotlight PA, and thank you all for spending your Thursday evening with us. So for those who are new to our programming, Spotlight PA is a nonprofit, nonpartisan newsroom producing investigative and public service journalism. And of course, we couldn't do that with any of you, our readers and donors who support us in numerous ways. You can learn how to support us by going to our website. I'll drop a link in the chat a little bit later, but you can go to spotlightpa.org. So this is the second event in our Booklight PA series, which is called Booklight PA, and it's in partnership with a Novel Idea, which is a community-minded bookstore and event space in Philadelphia. And of course, we're joined tonight by the amazing co-owner of that incredible space, Alex Schneider, who will be your host for tonight. So before I turn things over to Alex, just a few housekeeping items. Today's event will be recorded and posted on our website shortly for those who are not able to join us live. You can join our discussion by submitting questions at the bottom of your screen, the little Q&A section, or you can drop them in the chat. I'll help organize all that. So thank you for everyone who already submitted questions in advance. We'll get to them towards the end of our program. All right, I'm gonna turn things over to Alex. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much to Spotlight PA and Yasmin for partnering with us. It's been amazing, and thank you so much for Stephanie for being here. So I am not much for formality, but Stephanie is at our shop a lot, does a lot of events with us, you know, does great work, is a great writer, and is was also the advisor for my wife in grad school. So we have this back and forth triangle-y kind of thing that keeps going around and around. So it's lovely, lovely to have you here tonight, Stephanie.
Well, thank you so much. I'm always excited to do a novel idea event, in person, online. And I'm so excited about this book club program from Spotlight PA and happy to be here.
So this was this was a an amazing book, and it didn't take me. Now, I didn't think you were ever going to be a bad writer at all. But I had not read your book. And when we got the opportunity and it was like, we offered it to our employees, is Christina going to do it? Am I going to do it? And I was like, oh, great. I get to read it. Fantastic. And it was the perfect spooky season read. And after the first section, it was like, Christina, I I love this. I love this so much. It's easy to read. It's spooky, but it's literary. It has so much going on. And we were talking a little bit before um, we started about the book and it being horror for you. Can you tell us what inspired you to write this? What inspired this sort of brand of horror? Um, yeah.
There's so many things I think that were going through my mind back then. I think my first inspiration was I went to see a performance of The Mask of the Red Death, the Edgar Allan Poe story, at the Mutter Museum, which is a great place to go on a Halloween for
Not
an event.
spooky at all.
Yeah, and if you remember about that story, it is about a place where there's an epidemic, and basically the rich people are hiding out in a castle having a big party while everyone else, you know, falls to this illness. But then this masked figure appears who's death and sort of eventually gets everybody. And I had been thinking a lot about, um, you know, fear of the future and how we deal with the question of what terrible thing might happen tomorrow. I don't know, maybe still something we think about. And that image really resonated with me. And that question about how the future sort of it comes for us in different ways depending on our resources, but it's always going to come in the end. And I sort of like that combination of, that big question, but also being able to imagine and describe like a big wild party.
Yeah.
especially as
So,
COVID set in, and then I was like
oh,
really stuck at home. And I was
well,
like, what would it be like to hang out with people?
I didn't know where it fit in my question organization, but published October 4th, 2022. So if you want to talk to that and like how those obviously you're talking about sort of like a daily observation, influence this idea, and were there like what in those observations as well as like what books were building to that you were reading were building towards this project?
Yeah, well, there were two books that I read a very, very long time ago that sort of that stayed with me. And one of them was Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum, which is such a fun book and smart book and has secret societies in it. But there's also, and it's a very small section, but there's a section with a homunculus and alchemist. And that image had always stayed with me because it was just so creepy and striking. And I wanted to write about it somehow, somewhere. And the other book that really influenced me was Louise Welch's Tamburlaine Must Die, which is about Christopher Marlowe. And it's a very different book, but it's short and it takes place over one night. And I loved that format and I loved that as a challenge. And I can think really big about a story. And sometimes it like gets the better of me. And I was like, let me give myself, one character, one night. She she has to escape something. And see if that reins me in a little bit.
We all, yeah, you need whatever guidelines or whatever structure that helps you flourish. And also like not all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is an entirely other book. These four chapters do not belong here. This is something else. Like just throw it away and move it
Yeah.
aside. So that's great. And would you say that that homunculus is the one thing that sort of chilled you through writing? That's the like the spookiest thing that you caught yourself doing, waking up in the middle of the night like, "Oh my God, the little man.
So what have I done?
What have I done?"
Um, yeah, I guess there ended up being two monsters in the book because you also have the Mandragora, but that one I I have a lot of sympathy. I have a lot of sympathy for both of them, but there's something about the homunculus because it is so human but so alien at the same time. And I just taught a class on horror and I was trying to explain that idea of the uncanny, that something that is familiar but also strange creates that feeling of like disquiet and it leaves you unsettled. And even though I got to know the homunculus a little bit as we went along, I think it's still unsettling even now.
Yeah. It's a wonderful um I'm a visual person. I was a graphic designer for years and years before the shop. So and movie aficionado, so I think more in like sort of like a timeline and snapshots of things. And I had so many images of this swirling, viscous kind of fluid in the hand against the glass. Like it was a lovely, creepy, um, it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. Um, the other thing that struck me was like before reading, I knew it took place in Philly, and there are some things where like, oh, it just takes place in Philly. Like the rest of the city exists, but it's not particularly a character. And this was very much, I could see Nina running, I could see like, plotting where she's going. The styrofoam container of chicken and rice being tossed on the overstuffed trash can and falling to the ground open. And it's like, oh my God, that's only in Philly, and I've probably seen 100 times. Um, but I think it ties into your observation and how you're like, oh, that's so tiny, but something like I stepped over a whole plate of eaten chicken wings the other day to get into the car. I was like, ah, yes, only in Philadelphia. But um, could you talk about how, in your mind, Philly was the perfect setting? Maybe talk about, a pineapple mansion, an alternative
Oh
fruit
yeah.
for that as well.
Yeah. Well, so I grew up in Philadelphia and I left for a little bit, but I came back. I always joke you can't really leave Philadelphia. Like we're like salmon. You get like pulled back on the current. Um, and I think I think writing about Philadelphia at that time was also part of me like reconnecting to this area as my home. And earlier I said I wanted to write this very sort of immediate one night we're following this adventure. And part of doing that is grounding us in this really specific place. And she's going to start, on Broad Street, and then she's going to go to the Wanamaker building, and then she's going to go to Chinatown. And these are all places that are so familiar to me. I did most of it from memory. I didn't like do a lot of research to see, eventually I was like, I got to make sure she can cross the street here or there. I was like checking out the landscape on the map.
Right.
Um, I studied at Penn, when I took a creative writing class at Penn when I was a kid. So a lot of it is, a lot of it is real, like meant to be exactly the way Philadelphia is. I want you to be able to see like this corner and this street and bring the trolley back. But then there are a few things that I changed. And one of them was the mansion in Fairmount Park. And there are, I think they call them the Five Charms, which are those old preserved mansions in Fairmount Park. And I fictionalized the mansion, I think just for my own like convenience. Like I wanted to make the floor plan the way I wanted to make the floor plan. Um, and I'm trying to think of what else did I fictionalize? I mean, I changed. So there's like the light show at the Wanamaker building. That's a Saturnalia light show, but obviously, but there's the Christmas light show. I just saw a sign to save the Christmas light show. So it was fun just to sort of recreate, my city that I know and traveling from downtown to West Philly. And um, I know that feeling you're talking about where it's like something is set in Philadelphia or set in a town or place but it doesn't really get it right. And I wanted to get it right and I wanted it to feel very, very familiar. And I was a little worried. I was like, I cannot mess anything up or I'm going to get emails. And I think there's one thing I messed up, but I think I did pretty well.
No, I thought it was perfect, and it has this lovely setting, but it also sort of baits the people who are very familiar with, the way Nina was moving, and you're like, wait, that's a little different. Like the space between that seems odd, like, but it also, I think, added to the anxiety of her travels, where all of a sudden, like if you weren't familiar, you're like, oh, it's like what's happening? And I thought it was lovely. Um,
But I should also say, Philadelphia is a specific setting for me and in service of the book, but I also wanted to write about a city, an American city that has so many different kinds of people living in it and people of so many different backgrounds, but also so many different statuses. Um, and you have generational wealth and then you have people who have far less, and we're all living together. And there's like the political apparatus and the social apparatus. And I felt like Philadelphia was a good model to just to explore what so much of the US is like and American cities are like.
yeah, the the juxtapose, like the dichotomy of this super elite with people wanting to be that, as well as the tornadoes and climate change and all of that. Um, was there I mean, you referenced our city, which is a perfect cross section of that fight. But did you encounter any difficulty sort of creating that in on the page?
One of the things I had to imagine was not just an alternative Philadelphia, because as much as, I want to say the geography and so much is alike, it is also very culturally different in that they celebrate this wild solstice festival, which I like to tell local people that it's like the Mummers Parade, but worse. I say that as a I'm a big Mummers Parade fan, but I had to imagine it a little bit in the future as well, because I wanted to imagine what is it going to look like here when the impact of climate change grows. And actually, over the course of writing the book, and then since the book came out, a lot of things that I imagined started to come true. And so I didn't actually imagine it as far in the future as I thought. And I
Hoped.
think that's sort of the hardest thing, was then being like, oh, I was trying to make it seem really bad. And the reality sort of caught up with some of the things that I really, I find scary. And
Yeah,
not because I'm like a psychic or anything. I don't have a fortune. I mean, I have a fortune telling deck, but I'm not
maybe,
great at it.
maybe.
But like, that's just what is already happening all around us.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Um, so Saturnalia is a real festival, honors the god Saturn. And there's a lot of illustrating of that fact in the pages. Um, did did you research the festival and it led you to the idea, or did the idea of the book lead you to the festival and you were like, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah, it's the second one, and it's for a very practical purpose. So, like I said, I wanted to be over one night, and I thought,
Hmm.
well, I need enough time. So I decided to make it the longest night of the year. I was like, let me go with the solstice. And then from there, I said, okay, like what kind of stuff might people do on the solstice? And I ended up learning about this ancient Roman carnival, Saturnalia, for the god Saturn. But I also learned how common carnival traditions are across the world. So there are a ton of solstice celebrations, obviously, like cross culturally, but also carnivals where, the whole point is to let people who are in restrictive societies and just facing the hardship of life to blow off steam. And some of that is playing around with releasing social norms and reversals. So in the book, East plays the Lord of Misrule, and that's a real title from English carnivals. And then Saturnalia, I think they also had a king of Saturnalia. So you would take someone who's the lowest kind of person and let them be king for the day, and they can do whatever
Hmm.
they want. And people are free to break all kinds of social rules. But then once you get that out of your system, like the next day, you got to go back to work, or you have to listen to your boss, and you have to adhere to all these social rules. So I was interested in that as um, a mechanism of control, to keep exploring this question about power and who has power in society, and who doesn't. And then also in doing all this research, I thought, what would a modern carnival look like? And we do, like, we have carnival like Mardi Gras, and there's carnivals all over the world. But in Philadelphia, where we have people from so many different backgrounds, like what would a real multicultural kind of carnival look like? So that's what I was trying to do too.
Yeah. And I enjoyed over the course of the night we kind of got a, obviously a lot of the elite uh showmanship and everything, but over the course of the night we sort of ran the gamut of other celebrations. You know, Nina's family, like, we're home, we're cooking dinner, everyone's here, to, the cemetery, and like kind of gave us a little bit of a taste of everybody's thing. The cabbies that are like, this is horrible, I have to work this, please go away, don't talk to me, go back into your homes. So I thought it was a lovely spread of like the possibilities unfolding in front of us. I'm going to start with a quote. We reassured ourselves by imagining ever more fantastic catastrophes while the real disasters unfolded. We're kind of, to your point, living a little bit of like, oh, I thought I'd make it really bad, but like it's by comparison, it's not. Um, was this a like a COVID mindset? Was this a pre-COVID sort of mindset? Um, and how do you like place the Saturn Club within within that? Would it exist, and does it exist without this sort of turmoil?
Um, so this thinking, it predated COVID, and I was thinking about the political instability that has been ongoing and how we sort of we can get used to the things that happen to us. And just for example, there was that terrible storm in Alaska that I think has destroyed a small town or settlement. And I read an article about it today from Anchorage, and the article said, these are our first climate change refugees. I thought, God, I have read so many articles that said, these are our first climate change refugees. Like climate migration is happening and has been happening. But it is like this like small group at a time, this small place at a time. Like this big storm happened, but then we recover, but not all of us, but like enough of us that we just kind of keep going. And we stop seeing, these things, these events for what they are. And the Saturn Club, they like to think they're in charge. Okay, so maybe this is also me as a native Philadelphian, and I can be a little self-deprecating when you're like, I'm the most powerful person in Philadelphia. Like, that's pretty good, but like, it's Philadelphia. It's not, you're not like running the world or whatever. And but I think that's how most people are that are seeking power. They want to like have their little fiefdom and they feel like that maybe protects them or gives them some kind of security. And it's like these guys at the Saturn Club, it's like, okay, you can like pull the levers in Philadelphia, but that's not going to save you from the bigger problems that we're all facing.
Yeah, I love that. There, and I think you really embodied that with East and the councilmen and the folks around, like pre-terrible party. The way they sort of carried themselves and the way they like the councilman spoke to Nina. It had that air of like you're so insignificant, and I'm annoyed that I actually have to deal with your presence right now. But like obviously I have to do it. Just like hold on, wait, I'm gonna go make a call. Like just it doesn't matter. Um, and I love that. I thought it came through very well, but I also love it. It hurts a little bit for our city, but you're like, yeah, you're in Philly. Like, come on, get over yourself a
But
little
that's what
bit,
we love
right?
about
Right,
Philly, right?
exactly. Um, we love to hate it, but when everyone else
Yeah.
makes their stand, we're then against you
Yeah.
as well.
But again,
Um,
like even if I wanted to say, oh, you're the most important person in LA, like good for you, but those wildfires like magically go around you, like no. So it's sort of silly jokes aside,
yeah.
it sort of applies to,
Yeah,
you know,
and it goes to their main point, right? The only thing they wanted from the tiny man, which we'll move into, was how how they survive, how they continue to flourish at the expense of Nina, of everyone in their way. So so the tiny man, the tiny, terrible, cute, sort of I envisioned him uh like a golem, schmiegly kind of like
Yeah,
eyes
kind of
and
wrinkly.
such, kind of wrinkly, um, but adorable. Aside
Yeah,
from like trying to get one off of my finger,
yeah, like a little
I
bitey.
yeah, a little, definitely a little bitey. Um, so so the creation was going to help the world, but it seems like it for all these people, kind of have always illustrated, are nothing more than fixing their own personal chaos. Um, and and this idea, or I should say, throughout the book, this idea of invention and creation is a thread through the entire thing. Even before the book, all these people, the Kramer club, Kramer
Oh,
whatever,
Camera,
Kammer.
close enough.
Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so how important are these sort of like two things, like the creation, the alchemy, all of that, and then this these people only addressing the chaos of their own life?
So one of the things that the characters in the book, but I think also like the wider world in Philadelphia in the book, they're doing with Saturnalia is they're trying to distract themselves with pleasure, with a big party, but they're doing it in a kind of nihilistic way. Like Rome's burning anyway, let's just fiddle all night, you know? And Nina is, as she confronts that, eventually, turns against it. And it's not about turning against having a good time, right? But it's actually about turning more towards community. And the book ends with this like very like beautiful scene with a garden. And, that's about, it's still mysterious, but it's about growth and a sort of positive change. And she's with Amparo. And, you know, it's a difference between finding a creation and creativity and joy with other people in your community as opposed to just like turning up the music and saying who cares what happens tomorrow. And even though she doesn't learn all the secrets of how, alchemy and how it all works and how they created life, like she sees the value in um, the life itself and what they've accomplished instead of just seeing the value in how can I profit off of this, even if it means killing what I made.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because Nina's struggling with that same sort of thing. She's pulled herself back. She's the coven of one, and she doesn't see community. She wants nothing but for herself, and that as she processes like all her trauma, she realizes she needs people. And I thought it was interesting. It was like this thing that people aren't caring about is just going to be processed on the other side. All of a sudden, it's like, well, and I don't think she gets it at first. She's like, this is the me that I'm upset at. Like, this is how I feel about what happened in my life over the past couple of years. And I thought that was a great way for her. Oh Nina, put so much in front of herself before it happens, and there's a lot that happens. But I thought it was a great way to get her to her to her revelation, right? Through these people who are forgotten or just are just thrown away, and she's never understood that she's kind of throwing herself away at the same time a little bit. Um, before this night.
Yeah, and I think she feels like, well, I don't want to play by their rules, so I'm just going to take myself out of the game. And it's like you can make your own game in some ways. And she's still stuck in the mindset of, there's the Saturn Club and there's me. And do I want to climb the ladder or not? When it's like you can make a life for yourself away from their, business.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And like to bring it back to reality, like the game still is being played, whether we opt in, whether Nina opts in or not, someone is still sadly playing the
Yeah.
game. I feel exhausted just saying that, and just
Yeah.
you have to however level of toe to neck you decide to put into the game, there is the game that's still happening.
Yeah, that's so true. I think it's maybe more of a maybe like a psychological kind of triumph. It's
Hmm.
yeah, sure, she can decide they don't matter, but they still have more money. They're still going to do whatever they're going to do. I mean, she still lives in this society no matter what,
Right.
but she can find a way to, define herself and see herself the way she wants to see herself and not see herself the way in one of those little slots that's been constructed for her.
Yeah, I loved the it's on like the second or third to last page, and she's like, so he came home with me, and like that's all we needed. It tells us everything. And I always love a I've already had the conversation in my mind throughout the whole story. Like, this is what they need to say, this is what I
Yeah.
need, but like, just give me the indication at the end of the story that this is something that gets exposed, because I'm real bad about TV shows, everything. Like, I want people to get their comeuppance.
Yeah.
And like it's never really that way, but I always want a little bit of like, they got away. Like, no, there's no, and a lot of that.
Yeah.
I'm a 90s kid, so there was no consequences for a lot of these people. But
Yeah, I was also thinking about the sort of rape revenge or like revenge plot that you see quite often. And I wanted to subvert it, and there is catharsis and there is revenge, but it's like not what the revenge she wants, it turns out to like not be what she really needs. But I still got some
yeah.
vengeance in for us readers because
Oh yeah.
that's
There's
fun.
there's plenty. There's
There's
plenty.
See, there is
Um
karma. Like it's an unfair world, but in a book, there is karma.
it's way more fair than
Yeah.
I anticipated we might get. I love a thing that makes me Yasmin and I were talking the other day. I love a book where I just walk around in the dark, like after I finish it, and I'm like, oh my God, like and I work it out in my own sort
Yeah.
of way as I wander like a specter in my own home, because the book haunts me afterwards, and I got more than I thought, and I thought that was like the perfect amount.
Yeah. I always feel like, I mean, all due respect to like the bleak ending, and I can totally appreciate one too, but I feel like if you're going to bring the
Richard
reader,
Powers, dang
if
you.
you're going to bring the
Anyway,
reader through however many hundreds of pages, like you got to give them something.
yeah. Yeah, you do. And I think it's a like this masochistic side of me that was like, oh, that really got me, really ruined my
It really
day.
ruined my day with that book.
Yeah. Um, so we're gonna get into some audience questions. I'll start with folks that pre submitted them. Um, so I have Christy and asked, why should people read more science fiction?
why should people read more science fiction? Um, I just feel like people should read more in general. Um, I think I think people should read more without worrying about the genre, because I think that often as readers, especially these days, I feel like it's a good reification of the, the world. People get really stuck in what they think they want to read. And, it's fair. We all have taste and like that's just your taste. But I think we should all be open-minded about picking up a book that maybe seems like not our usual kind of genre and giving it a chance, because genres are not fixed categories, and you see science fictional concepts pop up. Like I didn't even think about this as a science fiction book until someone said, well, climate change near future, like that makes it science fictional too. And I was like, oh yeah. Um, so I think people should take chances on books and not stick with one kind of book. I hope that
And
answers the question.
entirely agree. As the bookseller side, when you see Ingram's breakdown of categories as I'm like processing new books, I'm like, this is in every category. I'm looking like from the
Yes.
like the beginning of the store to the end. Like, where do we put this? Like, what's first? Blah blah blah. So I entirely agree. Um, Jenna says, did you select Philadelphia because of the deep class divide? So you got a little bit into this, but if you'd like to expand.
Yeah, I picked Philadelphia because it's my it's my place, but that was definitely something that I wanted to explore and that Philadelphia really offers um, as an opportunity when you're writing about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Ayana said, how does class status come into play when there's a natural disaster? So a little bit of the previous question with some other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, I think that it's it's so important for all of us to see how extreme weather and climate disasters impact marginalized populations to a greater extent. It has to do with where people live. It has to do with who has the resources to rebuild, who is given resources to rebuild. And it's about climate change. I just got a little note that my internet's unstable. So let me know if I freeze or anything.
You went out a little
Um,
bit, but you're back.
okay. Yeah. So, um, yeah, climate change is not, well, I said earlier that you could be the big CEO and still not escape right now the ravages that we're experiencing being experienced disproportionately by towns that have
It seems
poor
like
people
we
and
lost you again a
attention.
little bit. Oh,
Oh,
and you're back again.
okay. Well, I was just soapboxing. I was soapboxing, but Ayana, thank you for pointing that out, because it is something we have to pay attention to.
Then I'll come back to another question. More from the tiny man. Susan's wants to know, will there be a sequel seeking the male to complete the wedding?
Oh my gosh. I don't have a sequel planned. Um, there was a time we were hoping there was going to be a TV show, but that is no longer in the works, unfortunately. But that was the first time where I started imagining like what could happen after the book, like what would happen next. And my first thought was I wanted to follow Rhea up north and see what happened. Um, Yeah, I would like to expand the world. I'd like to write more about climate futures that are a little bit less dystopian. That's sort of what I'm thinking about right now is how we can imagine how we're going to keep living through this because we are going to keep living through this. And I think that's what I want to write about next.
That's great. I mean, I think I will read anything that you wrote at this point. Um, I love the book so much. It was lovely. Susan also wants to know, uh, I came across articles of low Saturn. Were you ever part of that in school?
No, what's that?
I don't know what it is either. I was
Same,
trying
what is
to
it? I'm
let me
Googling.
see. The internet is betraying me and
Yeah,
not giving me real things um
but
at the
no, I wasn't.
moment. Um but I think that's uh this falls into like it's horror, but it's also uh, this sort of ecofeminism, sort of a little slice that's become popular with Charlotte McConaughey, one of Christina's favorite authors with Migrations, um, has a new book out, Wild Dark Shore, that's more focused on climate change.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's a great place, and I can see that literary horror coming in a very you way that readers would love. Um, so Penn asked, "What was your source for Nina's deep lack of self-esteem, self-hatred? Literature, do you know any people like that?"
Um, I think for her character and where she is in this moment in her life, I think that unfortunately it's something that it's something a lot of women, but a lot of people experience, especially if in response to assault and other sort of dehumanizing behavior. Like one of the things I wanted to show in the book is that there is this sort of spectrum of abuse, and there's the incident with East, but then there's also how these other men have been these powerful people have been treating her like she is less than, um, or she's something there for them to use, and how that ends up, you know, it ends up diminishing her own confidence and reserves. And then on top of it, that she is a very ambitious person. She joined the Saturn Club because she wants to get ahead. She wants to be in charge. She wants to make money. She, wants to be on the VIP list, and she fails. And she has to confront, okay, I wanted to be this big thing, and now I'm just this nothing. And realize that she's more than that scale and way of evaluating people.
Gotcha. Susan explained with a link,
Oh,
um, and I believe it'd be more like an IO
oh, IO
Saturnalia.
Saturn, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I didn't. I was like never a Latin person. Um, I do know about the Saturn Club hair salon. I only learned about it recently. Um, yeah, I wasn't. I just invented a lot of this. It's also kind of funny when you invent something and then you find out that there are like parallels. You didn't invent as much as you
right.
thought.
Um, Penn also asked if you read Naomi Alderman's book, The Future. Um, the question
No.
was
Is that a
just...
nonfiction? Is that nonfiction or is that
No, it's not nonfiction. She wrote The Power was
oh right.
her big book. The other one was last year, the year before. Um, yeah, and it as like a climate refuge for billionaires kind of thing.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna add that to my list. Sometimes, when you're writing about a certain topic, sometimes you want to do a lot of research and sometimes you don't want to see what anybody else is
yeah,
writing because you
yeah.
don't want to be influenced too. But then afterwards you can go back and
Um, as folks, if you have other questions, please drop them in the Q&A. You can also drop them in chat. Um, but we're going to go with what advice do you have for younger writers who are looking to get into horror writing?
Oh, um, well, my sort of general advice that applies for any kind of genre is to write a lot and read a lot. Read a lot of horror. There's so much great horror right now. And then there's also so much great classic horror. So there's a lot out there for you. And great magazines like Weird Horror and Nightmare Magazine, um, both of which I believe publish online. So it's good to stay up to date and like see what people are publishing. There are some great awards like the Shirley Jackson Awards and the Stoker Awards, and you can check out who they've nominated um, for all kinds of different categories. Pick up anthologies from Ellen Datlow, who's like the editor's queen of horror and always puts out really great collections. And, you know, you gotta write what you find scary. I think all writers have to do this too, but in horror, it's like, don't be afraid of the thing that you want to avoid. You have to, you've got to face it on the page, and that's going to make your story really powerful. And come to StokerCon, it's pretty fun. It's in Pittsburgh next year.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I I loved the book. I thought it was really easy to read. I love horror, so I was not sure sort of what brand I was getting into beforehand because I in the past couple years I've gotten away from watching movie trailers or like if I'm interested in a book, which is, our entire shop. Um, I don't I don't research it down to the Goodreads rating to the like I feel like it ruins my anticipation. It was like, oh, that sounds really good. Try the first chapter, and if it works, I continue on.
Yeah.
Um, and I found myself as a dyslexic human being and um, also funny to own a bookstore at this point. Um, that if I find a rhythm that is effortless, I'm that much more enthralled. So I appreciate, all your hard work. I thought it was lovely. And like I said, I want more. I know that's a lofty and asking a lot sort of thing, but yeah. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you so much, Alex. And I want to also say that for the horror writers and readers, go to A Novel Idea because they have the best curated collection for horror and just in general. And can here's the other thing about finding a book you want to read. Talk to a bookseller because they know and they will give you really good recommendations that you are not going to see everywhere else.
Our horror section is bursting at the seams right
Hmm.
now. Every
Yeah.
time, like the past couple days, like, oh man, we have so many more shelves than we usually sit with, and which is great. Also, like, where do I always have an issue of what I'm reading next, which thankfully I have bookshelves over here. We've got things here. We've got it's constantly distracting, but thank you so much. This was lovely. It was
This
lovely to
was this
chat
was
with
like
you.
the best Thursday night I've had in a while.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I know we've chatted at events and Our connection is my wife, but I'm so happy I got this opportunity.
Me
Thank
too.
you, Spotlight PA, and thank you, Yasmin, for putting it together. It was wonderful. It doesn't feel like work when it's easy like this. So thank you so much.
I was just going to say my editor said we should start a podcast. So I'm going to be emailing you guys after this
Let's do
for
it.
our next
Fantastic,
episode. Yeah.
fantastic.
And speaking on that note, Alex gave us a great list of recommendations that I'm going to drop into our Discord later. And I'm going to add it to our web post too, so everyone has that. But again, thank you both for being here. Again, Alex, Stephanie, I really, really appreciate it. This is a pilot program, so I appreciate all of the effort and all of
We
our
appreciate
leadership
you.
here.
It was
Thank you.
Yes,
great.
we are so grateful to
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. And again, thank you all for spending your Thursday evening with us. You can grab your own copy of Saturnalia if you didn't already, which you should have. You can go to Stephanie's website at stephaniefieldman.com, or you can go to a novel idea, go into their beautiful bookstore, or go to a novelideaphilly.com. So next up, we have our next book club book, which is If Suns Then Heirs by Lorraine Carey, which is going to be on a Tuesday, November 18th. You can register for that event now at spotlightpa.org/events. I'm also going to drop that link into our Discord. As always, I encourage you to read local, go to your local libraries, go to your local bookstores, go anywhere where you could buy books, and join our Discord. I'm going to drop that in the chat as well. Any questions or comments can be directed to events@spotlightpa.org. Again, thank you all for being here, and I will see you. And thank you, Puppy, for being here too.
Yeah.
I will
He
see you
made his
all
appearance at the end, had to get on camera. A
and
spoiled little
star of
boy.
the show, star of the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you all for being here. Again, I'm going to drop those into our Discord. I'm going to drop some in the chat here right now too. And have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Night.